All right, we're ready to go, guys. Well, good evening, everyone. Dr. Stacy here. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight with the inventor of our LifeWave technology, the owner of LifeWave, the CEO, founder, David Schmidt. We are so grateful and blessed that he is joining us this evening for this special live Zoom and, of course, recording. So don't worry, it'll be recorded so you can share this with as many people as possible. Many of you were in Orlando with us in July, and David came and was sharing just so much brilliant information on stage. And you probably remember that we had a fire alarm right towards our Q&A session, and we got cut short. And I know that, when I reached out to you after, David, I said, please, do you mind to finish our Q&A? And you said, yes, but I'd love to talk about some other things as well, too. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here this evening and pouring into our community.
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Stacy. Thanks for having me and really looking forward to this. And of course, now we get the benefit of doing this after the trip to Denmark. So we have a lot to talk about. And of course, we have conference coming up. So there's a lot going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do definitely want to get to conference and I want to get to Denmark. But let's just take us back a little bit, if you don't mind. We were actually in a deep discussion talking about X39, and of course, a lot's happened since then. So I'm going to jog your memory. I was asking you a question in regards to people's concerns with the X39. We know we're elevating GHK. And of course, we know what happens after that and the process in the body. And people were kind of concerned if there could be, some cells that go rogue or what could happen in the process of that. And we were having that discussion about, the power of GHK and your 10 years of research that ended up with, over 70 patents, your 10 years in research in stem cells. And so, could we kind of talk just a little bit about that, just for the people, because that is a very concerning thing right now, especially the
Mhm.
last 5 years with people's health. The body is just there's a lot going on.
Sure. Yeah, I think it is a great subject to talk about because actually, this helps someone to structure a program for natural treatments of different types of health disorders. And I think it's a good time to say I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not any type of doctor. I'm a researcher, inventor, and we're not making any type of medical claims or providing any type of medical advice. But what I mean by this is that when we understand the root cause of disease, and let's use cancer as an example, then we can structure a therapy program that's actually going to be efficacious and not harmful to the body. So if we look at references, for example, from Stanford University School of Medicine, what we'll see is that today, an accepted definition for the origin of cancer has to do with the mutation of stem cells. And this occurs as a result of introduction of a carcinogen into the human body. So this can take many different forms. This could be radiation. This could be some type of synthetic material like a pesticide, or it could be a heavy metal, could be tobacco, pick kind of your poison here.
Mhm.
But it's some type of poison that mutates the stem cell, and then this turns the natural stem cell into a cancer cell. So knowing this, then it should become obvious that one of the things that someone with cancer would want to do is detoxify the body and get rid of this chemical. Another thing that comes up in cancer therapy, and I'm answering this question in a very roundabout way, but I'll get there, um, is that cancer cells reproduce anaerobically in the absence of oxygen. So, this is why oxygen therapies have been around for decades and why many of the regulatory bodies and pharmaceutical companies don't like oxygen therapies because they're very inexpensive and also they're very effective. So when we're talking about oxygen therapies, ozone therapy, where you remove blood from the body, about 200 milliliters, inject it with medical grade ozone gas. This forms ozonide compounds and gets injected back into the blood. And this is highly toxic to cancer cells, but it does not affect any living tissue. And this is important because um, ozone and peroxide are produced by the immune system to kill viruses, bacteria, cancer cells. So, this all said, when we look at naturally occurring compounds in the human body, such as GHKCU, carnosine, glutathione, the question is going to be, if we elevate these peptides, will it have any adverse effect? Could it cause cancer or could it cause cancer cells to grow? The evidence is certainly that this does not occur. Copper peptide is known to support the health and function of the immune system. Um, Copper levels of copper peptide increase or decrease with age. They're elevated when people are in their youth, in their 20s. So, what this would mean is that if copper peptide was toxic and increased risk of cancer, we would see people in their teens and 20s getting cancer from elevated levels of copper peptide, but it doesn't happen. It's very similar when we talk about something like testosterone. Um, Many medical doctors are taught that elevated levels of testosterone is going to be a cause of prostate cancer. I've had dinner with Dr. Abe Morgentaler, maybe many, many years ago now from Harvard, and he completely dismissed this idea that there was no relationship between testosterone and prostate cancer. And in fact, there's a number of natural nutrients which we know are very effective at treating prostate cancer, but that's another matter. Glutathione, another great example. Glutathione levels will decline with age, and we know glutathione is a principal part of the immune system, the body's master antioxidant. And so introducing glutathione to the body is only going to support the health and function of the immune system. Now, if someone is getting chemotherapy, um, their oncologist may not want their patient to take glutathione because they feel that it makes the chemotherapy less effective. But that's a separate conversation. So I think we can say that natural compounds in and of themselves are not going to be a cause of cancer. These are known carcinogens that mutate stem cells.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying that. I know we had people that were like, wait, what was he going to say? Are we okay? Are we safe? Of course we know. We have millions of people patching around the globe now over the last 20, almost 21 years. And so we don't have millions of people running around with the patches on, experiencing those adverse effects, of course. So we know that we see the opposite. So I have a couple
Right.
questions about X39. So, based on your 10 years in stem cell research in developing the X39, how would you say that it affects the systemic repair prioritizing in the body? So, like, how does the body decide what to repair first once these cells are activated? Is there a set sequence?
That is an extremely interesting question. So, first, we want to look at um, the fundamental control mechanisms within the human body, and that's ultimately going to be light. So Becker was the one, I think, was probably the first one to say that it's going to be the electrical or energetic fields of the body that are going to control the biochemistry. So when we're looking at how to structure a plan that's going to work for us, That's going to include, of course, diet, exercise, proper rest, hydration. We want to take care of uh, the biochemistry with proper nutrition and supplementation. We have to get enough protein if we want to build muscle. We want to make hormones, repair tissue, have enough protein for collagen so we have healthy skin. We need those building blocks, but it is the energetic system in the body. It's going to be the nervous system, the electromagnetic pulses, the biophotons that are going to act as signaling mechanisms in the body. This initiates and directs how the biochemistry is going to do what it does. So both of them have to work in harmony. So the LifeWave patches, of course, are going to stimulate the skin with light and act as a communication channel to elevate copper peptide. So that's the fundamental mechanism. From there, we know that one of the things that copper peptide will do is activate the P63 gene, and this will cause mobilization of stem cells. There's also some very interesting research that looks at copper peptide as a Yamanaka factor. And this is interesting because what it means is that if we take the stem cells that are located in the skin and we apply a Yamanaka factor, or we apply copper peptide, it will revert the skin stem cell, which is a differentiated stem cell, back into a pluripotent stem cell. This goes into the bloodstream and increases the number of circulating stem cells. Now, in terms of what is the sequence of events that occurs to repair the body, that is a somewhat easy and difficult question to answer. First, for each individual, it's going to depend on their age, their general health, what they're doing to take care of their health, and also what level of injuries are we talking about? Are these some minor aches and pains? Is it rheumatoid arthritis? Is it going to be something systemic, degenerative condition? So each person's individual status is going to matter. One of the factors that drives this is mitochondrial function. So the better that we support the health and the vitality of our mitochondria, the more energy that we have to drive protein synthesis, and protein synthesis is ultimately going to be driving repair. When we talk about the injury itself, um, if we walk through the steps of how an injury actually occurs, let's say someone slams their knee against a wall. My wife Christina and I, we were talking about this today. She will concede that I have excellent strength and stamina and poor balance, and she's the queen of balance. She can stand on one leg forever, but I've got her on strength and cardio, so we try to complement one another. So let's say I was walking along and I slammed my knee into a wall. Well, that injury is first going to create some oxidative stress. And the oxidative stress we normally think of it as a bad thing, but it's a good thing because it's going to suppress the formation of bacteria. It helps to prevent an infection. The oxidative stress then acts as signaling molecules to bring in inflammatory cytokines. The inflammatory cytokines, again, which we tend to think of as a bad thing, that is going to break down the damaged tissue and make way for repair. The inflammatory cytokines are now signaling molecules for stem cells. In an acute injury, the stem cells come in, the antioxidant system of the body will help to manage the cytokines, and the stem cells repair the injury. In a person that has a chronic injury and they have these elevated cytokines and they're in pain, they're achy, the stem cells are still attracted to the cytokines, but the stem cell colonies die off because the antioxidant system of the body can't manage the cytokines. So the injury does not heal. So, what this tells us is that when we use a product like X39, we want to have a healthy diet rich in antioxidants. We want to supplement with antioxidants. We can also use LifeWave patches. We can apply a patch right to the injury site, but we want to get the inflammation under control so now the stem cells can heal the body. Sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it would be people including extra virgin organic olive oil in their diet, which is a wonderful natural anti-inflammatory, which has amazing longevity effects, as well as other benefits. Curcumin, those natural herbs, using Cellular, which has cyanothox, N-acetylcysteine, beta-alanine, including a nice spectrum of different antioxidants that will act as anti-inflammatories, manage that, and now the stem cells can do their job.
And what about adding the Eon patch? Would that be beneficial for the inflammation?
Well, that's my favorite combo. That would be my favorite combo, X39 back of the neck and the Eon patch or the glutathione patch at the site of injury. We can also look at, in the case of, I'll just mention this because it's so common, many times people have a problem with their joints where it's a degenerative condition and they don't have enough cartilage. And many years ago, I'd spoken with Dr. Bernd Friedlander about this, and he had been doing some interesting research, which was completely contrary to the state of the art at the time. So, orthopedic surgeons are taught that once you lose your cartilage, there's nothing you can do and you need a knee replacement. And that's not completely true. Orthopedic surgeons aren't lying to us. It's just that they weren't taught any better, and I think clinical research hadn't really caught up. But as a practical matter, what's been found is that both vitamin C and glutathione act as triggers for regenerating cartilage. So the same rules apply. With the patches, people could apply X39 behind the neck. They could, let's say in the case of a knee, they could put the glutathione patch on the outside of the knee, the Eon patch on the inside of the knee, parallel. This is going to help to manage inflammation and create a trigger for regrowing cartilage. Now, this is to say that it would be wise for a person to supplement with collagen, make sure they're getting adequate protein so they can build the cartilage. And I'd also recommend vitamin C, 1,000 or 2,000 milligrams a day. Um, but this is just to say that the body has these amazing ways to heal and repair if we can get the inflammation under control and we have the right signaling mechanisms.
Perfect. That makes perfect sense. So let's shift gear just a little bit. You drank a glass of water. So let's talk a little bit about the X2O, which of course you have already pre-launched that machine last month. We know senior presidentials, executives, and now our senior directors are actually receiving their emails. So we have hundreds and hundreds of people around the United States that are receiving their machines and are so excited. And of course, we have an FAQ. And so we're not going to go over the FAQ. That is in the chat. And my co-hosts are going to drop that in the chat again. If you didn't see the FAQ, it's 11 pages, very thorough, lots of great information. But we do have some questions just in regards to a couple things with the machine. So first off, you did mention in the FAQ the types of water to put into the machine. And it said not to put alkaline. And of course, we know we have the Kangen machine out there, and we have a lot of people that utilize that, or they utilize some other type of alkaline water or hydrogen water bottle or machine. So why, they just want to know why to not put alkaline water into the X2O water machine.
Yeah, the answer is actually really simple. We haven't tested alkaline water with our filter system. If we were to bypass the filters and then put them into the light processing chambers, we could run that test and it's probably compatible. I wouldn't see that there would really be an issue with it. But we're not certain that alkaline water would be okay for the filtration system. We have two separate filters, as you know, in those machines. So we'd rather be go the conservative route and just recommend don't use them because we don't know if it would cause any harm.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, one other kind of logistics. So we have been or heard, I guess I wouldn't say told, but been heard that unadulterated water is structured as H3O2 and not H2O like we've been taught. This is a question from someone in our field. So is that true? And if it is true, does the X2O machine change our H2O water to that?
I'm probably as controversial already without having to get more controversial about the structure of water. Yeah, what X2O is designed to do, which I think is controversial, and not accepted scientifically. But the fact of the matter is that we have demonstrable effects where we can measure changes, physical changes in the properties of the water. We have Dr. Glenn Ryan, who we've been working with the past year, who's a brilliant scientist, recognized globally, doing in vitro work for us, who just gave me some fascinating results from some of his studies today that maybe I'll mention if you get me in the mood for it before we end the call. But I mean, one thing that we see is that the light system that we're using is in fact changing the conductivity of the water over time. So this method is absolutely having an effect on the physical properties of the water. We have seven clinical studies called these, they're both pilot and double blind studies on having individuals, we're now maybe at 300 people, have taken X2O in a clinical environment where we've done a variety of blood tests, urine tests, whole battery of different bioelectrical tests, EEG, thermography, heart rate variability, BioWell, biopulsar, looking at how the human body responds immediately within 10, 15 seconds of drinking X2O. Whereas, of course, with a regular glass of distilled or spring water, that doesn't happen. So these effects are measurable. So, with respects to the structure, what I would say is when I first started doing these experiments, um, I was utilizing a PEM fuel cell to convert water over into hydrogen and oxygen, and then reassemble the hydrogen and oxygen back into water in the presence of a catalyst using these very specific wavelengths of light arranged in a very specific geometry with the purpose of creating resonant domains between the bonds of the hydrogen and oxygen so photons of light could get trapped in these bonds so that once we would drink the water, the light gets released into the body. So the thinking was that if we know the methods, the wavelengths of light that will activate the mitochondria, trigger regeneration of the cell, most effective way to do that would be if we can get those wavelengths inside the body. And so light and water become a preferred method of healing, with water being a delivery system. Regarding the actual structure, I think there's some pretty good literature and practical experience um, to say that you can take water and change its structure in a variety of different ways, which would lead me to believe that it is in fact H2O. But I wouldn't say that's definitive. Maybe there's evidence to the contrary. But some of the things that I've seen in my own work is that the bond angle of water can change. Normally, it resides about 109 degrees, but it can actually change to 114 degrees and take on different properties. There's also many people on this call might be familiar that there's another form called electrically expanded water, which is HHO, and that form of water is a gas and it actually combusts. but it's and releases its energy. But yet it's still a water vapor that's been electrically expanded. Um, but water is it's a fascinating material. I think you could probably study it your entire life and not understand completely all of its secrets.
Well, thank you. That is a very thorough answer. Hopefully, that helped some of our audience. So, let's talk a little bit about the people that do have chronic issues. They come to us with complex health problems, and they're wondering with the machine, is it best to start with maybe 8 ounces a day, work their way up to 16, or is there a max limit that someone can drink? We know that it's best on an empty stomach, and I do want you to elaborate on that. Leave it plugged in, charged first thing in the morning. We had discussed that, how powerful that water is. But for someone that's really ill, what's the best recommendation for them? Because a lot of us out here, we're getting our machines, and we know there's so many people in need. We want to do the right thing
Yeah,
for them.
absolutely. So, first, we could say if someone is seriously ill, we could look at this the same way we would look at someone who has, let's say, for the last 10 or 20 years, not eaten properly, not exercised, maybe abused their body with pharmaceuticals, with alcohol, smoking, whatever the case might be. And you want to take that person and say, okay, we're going to put you on a program and we don't want you to go out and run 10 miles your first day because you'll drop dead. Uh, Walk for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, whatever you can tolerate reasonably. Let's get your diet in order. Let's get you off of alcohol and drink more water. Let's get your sleep in order, right? So we start to turn them around and change their life gradually over a period of time, especially in an area like exercise, because we don't want to elevate their cortisol, create undue stress, and then have them give up. The same would be true for someone. I don't want to make any medical claims, so I'll stay away from naming a specific disease. But the same would be true with someone that has a serious chronic health condition who probably has a number of challenges with their immune system and also may not and probably doesn't have a history of having the best health habits. Drinking this water, what we see in our studies, it's that it's going to dramatically increase mitochondrial function very rapidly. This will mobilize toxins. And so, someone that is ill could have a propensity to get sick before they feel better. They might feel initially better after the first glass, and then they might start to experience some detox symptoms. We did see this with a number of people that were using this to self-treat for some health conditions, and they took the first glass, they felt better, they went the second day, and then they started feeling worse. I told them to take 1 or 2 days off, which they did. They started to maybe drink half a glass per day and then work their way back up. And after over the course of a week or two, they were drinking a glass a day and then went from there. So I would definitely recommend people be a little bit more on the conservative side if they're ill and they start with less. Um, with many people, drinking the water after 3 o'clock in the afternoon can sometimes keep them awake till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. They may have a difficulty getting to sleep. For some people, that might be totally fine. But for others, not so good. So each individual situation is going to vary a little bit, but I would say start with 1 glass for the first month, see how you do, and then go from there.
Okay.
You don't have to drink 8 glasses of X2O per day to get an effect. Our studies are all based around just drinking a single glass per day.
And do you plan on doing studies in the future where people are drinking more than one glass, maybe 32 ounces a day or 64 ounces a day? Or do you feel like one is going to be sufficient?
That, well, that depends on a number of things. So if I was going to say, what's the ultimate goal here? It's to stop and reverse human aging. And so I'm looking at a number of different species and to understand exactly what's the underlying mechanism. And I think we know a lot today compared to, just even within the past few years. So the type of testing that we're getting ready to do on X2O, now that we have the machines and people can put them in their homes and drink the water each day, um, will be to look at gene expression, telomere testing, and mitochondrial function, along with some others like an organic acid test and inflammatory panel. But really, the big ones that we want to understand is does X2O over a period of time, and it would take, based on prior experience that we've done, prior studies, it's about a minimum of 6 months before you see changes in telomeres, um, going one direction or the other. And we would do the gene panels, the epigenetic testing at the same time. So the goal would be if people had the proper methylation factors. Some people might require supplementation with vitamin B12, methylcobalamin, SAMe, trimethylglycine. There's a number of methylation factors. If they had the methylation factors, which is going to help regulate gene expression, if they had their diet in check or they're taking the proper supplements, then I think we could expect that over a period of that 6 months, then 12 months, we would in fact see favorable changes in the length of the telomeres and maybe some favorable changes in the epigenetics. But that ultimately is going to be the goal. Whether or not, that's from 1 to 4 glasses per day, we'll see.
Okay, fantastic. All right, last water question. So you have mentioned lobster DNA and the biblical
Yeah.
light codes in the water design. So, how do you see that layer of photonic coding interacting with human biochemistry? Is there like a spiritual or quantum intent embedded in this technology?
Well, I'm more concerned, I think, with the biophysics and delighted that the spiritual component is there. Meaning, I enjoy reading the Bible to be a better person, but what I wasn't expecting to find was a mathematical correlation between what I was seeing in lobsters and the numerical sequences in the book of Genesis. And since going down this road, I think I'll probably study this the rest of my life. I'm not going to get into it right this second, but in another section of the first 5 books of the Bible, I found a mathematical sequence that I interpret as a formula for an entirely new source of energy. So the Bible is much, much more than what it seems. It's a book that I think defies time and space. And I certainly believe it's evidence that there is a true living God, and the Bible is the inspired word of God. So when we look at the biophoton emissions in lobster, we see some underlying mechanisms here that certainly are relevant and applied directly to human beings. So, what I mean by that is um, the wavelength of 630 nanometers, which is found in lobsters, is a very well known wavelength in human beings for turning on the mitochondria. 630, 660, 850. We know that these upregulate mitochondrial function. Um, in our work, we use the exact data set in lobsters. And instead of trying to transpose these and figure out, well, what would it be with human beings? I thought, okay, let's see if this is going to in fact have effects on human beings, the same wavelengths. And we found that we didn't have to change it in any way, that it worked just exactly that way. Um, I think another insight that was really important, which in retrospect seems pretty obvious, is that lobster blood is based on copper, not iron. Um, Much like for our Star Trek fans online, Vulcan's blood is based on copper, not iron. Um, but this is just to say that in human beings, it's inverted, and we see iron in the blood and copper in the skin. And I filed a patent on this more than 20 years ago now, on how you could take advantage of the uh, energy field that's produced as a result of this. In other words, in physics, this is a combination of the Thomson and Seebeck effect, or the Peltier effect in some sense. But in any case, if we take dissimilar metals like iron and copper and we heat one side and we cool the other, we're going to get a flow of electrical energy. And of course, when you have a flow of electrical energy, you have a magnetic field that forms at right angles. This, in fact, happens in human beings, and it also happens in lobsters. So, what this is to say that when I was looking at the wavelengths of light based off of copper, I then said, okay, I need to go back and look at the wavelengths in lobsters that would be presumably based off of iron. And then I got a second set of wavelengths that I later found out where they were. And then I found that same mathematical data in the story of the tree of life. So it all came back to the Bible. So literally, the book of Genesis is an instruction manual for how human beings were originally immortal and how some species today still have that. And we may be able to find a path back to biological immortality, which I don't think, by the way, is really the point. I don't think necessarily the goal is to live to be 1,000, uh, as some of the ages in the Bible. I think it's more of if we could have a life where we don't age, and if our lifespan is 100 or 150 or 200, and we never age, and we can be productive and have an amazing, enjoyable life and not have to worry about being sick, I think that's tremendous. That's for me.
Sign me up for that goal as well.
Sign me up.
Absolutely. I'm in the right place at the right time with the right man, that's for sure. The right God that's downloading all of this information to you. So grateful for this. So, David, let's shift gears a little bit. I know I want to talk about the Thunderstrike drone facility that I just attended the ribbon cutting for a couple weeks ago. And I would love for you to share because I know it was so hard to go 4 hours without our phones to take any pictures or videos. Every few seconds, I'm going,
Yep.
oh, I want to take a picture of this. Oh, I need to record that. And we were like sitting on our hands because we had no phones. So I know people have not seen this or heard much about it. So, what was the core strategic intent behind establishing the Thunderstrike facility in Denmark? And how does this drone technology align with LifeWave's mission of cellular health and longevity?
Yeah, so this has been one of these projects where I think you would say you never know in life when God is working in your life and you have things happening, what sometimes seems as something very innocent can turn into something completely else, and incredibly great things can happen. In this particular case with Thunderstrike, my son Matt had been going off in the wrong direction in life. He was heading down a path that really wasn't leading anywhere. So I was in dialogue with his mom, and I had tried for a couple of years to get him to come and work with me. And we both thought, okay, we really have to try a different approach here. And I thought, well, when Matt and I have spent um, when I've spent my birthday, his birthday with him, usually involves something flying. He jumps out of a plane, he takes a paraglider, something like that. So I called him and I said, "Hey, why don't you come to work with me and you and I will work on an aircraft together, something flying." And he's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know, but come down, we'll figure it out." And he said, "Okay." So I got him out of the situation he was in. He came to work and we started thinking about this. So during the 90s, I had been developing power generation equipment for the Navy for emergencies. This was an emergency 75 kilowatt turbine that would go on a nuclear sub and generate power in an emergency. So I went back and I thought about that and said, okay, maybe what we do with this aircraft project is we start with power generation. Maybe we could invent and develop something new for aircraft that would be clean power, clean, abundant power. And that could be something very fun and practical. So as we got to work with it and started to work on the project, it became very evident that there was an enormous opportunity. And one of the other things that was coinciding with this is with LifeWave, we had been donating money for 20 years to the Red Cross, Convoy of Hope, other organizations. And it always took a long time for the money to get to the people that were in need. And that was always very frustrating. So I thought, if we had our own drones that could deliver the patches and medical supplies and provide intelligence to people that were victims of natural disasters, that would be an amazing thing. So maybe that's a business opportunity for these drones. And then, of course, I married an amazing woman who's Danish in Denmark. And I wanted to spend more time in Denmark. So I went to the Danish government and they said, if you want to spend more time in Denmark, you've got three options. The first two was learn Danish, which is like impossible. And the third was to start a company. So I thought, great, I'll start a drone company. So little did I know at the time, and again, this is, where you have uh, God intervening. What I found was that the largest drone testing center in Europe was in Denmark.
Mm.
And so I had a meeting with the airport. They welcomed me. The Danish government was amazing, and they helped to facilitate all of this. So it became very clear that we should be building this facility out in Denmark. And what's extraordinary is we've captured because of the technology, it's many, many times more efficient than a car engine. And you've seen this now, so we can talk about that in a minute. Um, the exhaust is cleaner than the surrounding air, and yet it's running on petroleum. We've totally captured the imagination and interest of the Danish government. We had, countless dignitaries from the Danish government at that event. So it was really extraordinary.
Yes, it was. It was absolutely mind-blowing event, honestly. It was just very surreal to be there and to experience and to see everything you and your son have put together over the last 4 years. I remember standing on stage with the first drone, getting our picture taken at
Right.
conference, and it was just like, what are we going to do with these things? So could you just share a little bit about your plans with the drones? So everyone kind of has an idea of your humanitarian component with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the facility that we're talking about, this is it's actually the largest drone manufacturing facility in all of Europe at this point. It's 58,000 square feet. And our drones are have a 15-foot wingspan. They'll carry about 90 pounds worth of payload, and the payload is going to be uh, various cameras, infrared imaging, synthetic aperture radar. So for search and rescue, so let's say we were to launch one out of Orlando. Thankfully, we didn't have a hurricane, a week or two ago, but you certainly know what the problems with these. But let's say, we have a hurricane come through Florida, there's a problem. We could launch one of these drones out of Orlando in conjunction with a group like the Red Cross or the US government. The synthetic aperture radar can look under buildings. And so if someone's been trapped, if a building's been flattened from a hurricane, they can detect if there's anybody under those buildings. Um, the infrared imaging, of course, can spot people if it's at night, and the video is self-explanatory. But these drones will stay in the air more than 40 hours. And it does that with the exhaust being completely clean. Part of our demonstration was to show that in an engine of this size, the CO2 emissions on a regular engine are 78,000 parts per million, and ours were 1,200 parts per million, which was about the same as the ambient air. So that's a nice little trick we figured out how to pull off. So the plan is over the next year, we're going to be setting up now that the building is done. We're going to be setting up the manufacturing facility. We're going to be going through what's called our SORA testing in Europe to get certified, so we can fly these aircraft and then use these for various missions. But the goal is to use these for humanitarian purposes. Um, we've been speaking with a number of governments in Scandinavia that are interested in looking at this for things like monitoring oil pipelines, oil platforms, protecting the infrastructure of countries, in addition to search and rescue. So we're really excited what this is going to mean. And so this is going to say that in the future, there'll be drones with these huge drones with LifeWave on them that are going to help people in need and deliver our patches. So really excited about that.
That is exciting. I'm looking forward to that day. And I can't wait to start to see them in production, of course. So
Now
let's,
we didn't talk about the best part though.
what's the best part? The best part.
Dr. Stacy and her husband got to meet a prince. So this is one of the best moments of my life. I had previously given a presentation to Prince Joachim of Denmark because he is a race car driver as a hobby, and he loves everything with engines. So he came out in January of this year and wanted to see our engine technology. I was very grateful, so happy to accommodate him. He was totally blown away. And based on that, I also got to go to Paris. My wife Christina and I, we got to go to Paris and meet King Frederick as part of his state visit. And I was able to make a presentation to King Frederick. And then because we had done so well there, Prince Joachim agreed to come to our event. So all of our LifeWave leaders got to shake hands with Prince Joachim and hear him speak about how important humanitarian projects are to him and the royal family.
Yeah, you could tell he was very passionate. I know you had said he was not planning on speaking at all to our group, and he just took that microphone and he was just very passionate about what you're doing and what you're bringing to the community there, to Denmark and all of Europe.
Well,
So,
you didn't hear about what happened after that though. So after Prince Joachim addressed our leaders, then he exited the building and he got into his car and he drove away. Well, uh, I stepped out of the building with Christina to wish Prince Joachim a goodbye. I shook his hand to thank him. And then he reached over because his wife is French. He kissed Christina on the left and the right cheek and then got in the car and drove away. So it was like, how am I going to compete? My wife has now been kissed by a prince. I've got real problems here. So, but it was really, really great, memorable event, and so blessed that it went the way that it did.
oh, I am too. That is wonderful. That's great. I don't think there's any competition in Christina's eyes, though, so I don't think you have anything to worry about.
I think I'm okay for the moment. I think I'm
Yeah.
okay.
I think you are. All right, David, let's talk about something that's very exciting coming up for our entire field in just 6 weeks. We are going to be heading out to Anaheim, California for the 21-year anniversary. I know we're going to keep these anniversaries going. Talk to us a little bit about conference next month in California.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. We set a very, very high bar last year, and we've brought in some entertainment again for Thursday to open up the event. I think everyone will like what we have in mind.
Okay.
And then we have really full schedule on Friday and Saturday in terms of the content. Um, I'm going to be taking quite a bit of time to go through some of our new studies that we're doing on X39, on X2O, presenting some more of the science. We have a new scientist that has not been at a LifeWave event before, who had been doing a study on X39. She's going to come in and present her work. She's a brilliant PhD, and we're thrilled to be working with her. So she's going to present her results. We have some amazing guest speakers. I am going to be, I've decided I do want to share what's coming down the road in a future technology release at LifeWave. So I'll be doing that. Um, we've got some incredible recognition that's coming, some business training.
Mhm.
And we have a secret project that we've been working on for business building that's going to surprise everyone. But basically, we're doing a number of things to make LifeWave a household name. And we have a very, very interesting way of building our business with social media that hasn't been done in the network marketing industry before, not this way. And we're going to be showing that off, and it's going to be great. Of course, on Friday night, uh, our leaders are going to be walking down the red carpet. Our brand partners are going to get to see our documentary on X2O. Mickey Willis has done an amazing job on that. And of course, then we'll have an after party. And then Saturday, of course, that day is very, very full with business, mostly with business building. And then we get to Saturday night and we celebrate with Sir Elton John. So it's a very, very full event, packed event.
And do we have any tickets left for that still? If any brand partners interested in joining us?
That's a good question. I had an events meeting this past week, but I didn't get a new head count on that. There may still be some tickets left. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so we'll have to check that out for sure. We are looking forward to that event. I know I have been to four conferences and every one it just gets better and better and better and my mind is even more blown. So I cannot wait to see everything that you have to share with us at conference next month. That's going to be so exciting. So
We have a number of things that we've held back that are going to be really, really fun surprises. I did, in fact, create from our lab. We built in our lab two gifts
hmm,
for recognition, and that we're going to be sharing this year. Yeah, just have to see what it is. But this has become a thing that we like to do. We like to create these gifts that you can't get anyplace else. And we're going to be doing that again this year.
that makes it so special. I have a couple of those here. They're very,
You
very,
do.
very, very sacred pieces in my collection here. So, so grateful for that. So, David, let's just kind of, in wrapping it up here, what role do you see LifeWave playing in the next 10 years as a health tech company? Is it a platform for energy medicine, decentralized regenerative health movement? What's your broader vision for the next 10 years? Someone that's maybe new to LifeWave going, where is this company going? What do we have planned? Are we, obviously we're patches. We've been patches for 20 years. We have our Cellular, our water machine, of course, the Humanitarian with the drone. So where do you see us going?
Yeah, we've had a winning formula for the past 20 years that we want to continue to perpetuate, which is basically innovate, develop, patent, manufacture these new technologies that have extraordinary value that you can't get anyplace else, and get those out to market so people can benefit from them, and then give our brand partners an opportunity where they know there's no competition. So we want to continue to repeat this cycle. In terms of applications, um, absolutely, the goal is to continue to develop products based on light therapy technology where we can stop and reverse human aging. That is absolutely the goal. We see this with X39, we see it with X20. We're getting all the indications that this is possible, so we want to keep driving towards that. And that is a worthy goal because it has a number of um, ancillary effects that I think are great for the planet. Um, that's a separate story. We won't go down that road. Um, the other side to this is I want to make LifeWave a generational company. So I think about my own family. I think about the leaders that I have friendly relationships with, and we wouldn't be successful today without the leadership in the company. And so I think about what would be something that I could do to give back to our community as a way of saying thank you for this amazing life. And to me, it's about how can we sustain and perpetuate the business so that we know we're going to have something 10, 20, 30 years from now. So part of what it is that we're doing with the drone is all based around power generation. And it kind of all comes back to that. So you've seen this technology for yourself, and you know that it's basically doing things that are impossible. So the goal would be to take that technology, take it out to market, um, and that will be within a period of about 5 years or so. And this will mean that we'll have an entirely new business opportunity where people can connect this generator to their home, get rid of their electric bill, power their electric vehicle, and generate enough surplus electricity to sell it back to the grid and earn money. And we think that Meredith and I think that when we roll that out, LifeWave will double in size that year that we roll out if we can keep up with the demand. So that is what we're planning over the next 5 to 10 years is to come out with new technology that is that we develop ourselves, we patent, we manufacture, exclusive to LifeWave, and continue to turn LifeWave into a generational company. That's the plan.
So, with that last word of generational company, there has obviously been a lot happen in the industry this year of multi-level marketing. And I know you and
Right.
I talked about this, something we wanted to address the audience in Orlando in regards to our company structure that you started with over 20 years ago in the multi-level marketing industry. And with so many upsets this year, how do you see LifeWave in the future as a multi-generational company?
Yeah, I look today very much at the relationship between the company and the brand partners as being a marriage, and that it's something sacred, and that it's inconceivable to me that I would look at this great life that I have and all of this success, and it's been built with this partnership, and then to leave the channel is to me it's a highly unethical thing to do. Also, it's a little bit like from a business perspective, we're the fastest growing company in the world in the industry, and we're in the top 25 largest companies in the world. So network marketing is what got us here. So why would we ever change? I also think that network marketing is going to be one of the biggest business models in the world because of AI, both from a positive and negative perspective. What I mean by that is I have a good friend. I've been friends with him for over 40 years. He was my roommate in college. And he and 6,000 other people got laid off from IBM because of AI. So this is a trend that society is taking now. The more sophisticated that AI is getting, we can expect companies to implement this and reduce their workforce to cut costs. Public companies, for sure, will do this where they can. Robotics will make it even worse. So, what that means then is you'll have a lot of people that will need to work, they'll need to earn money, and network marketing is certainly going to be one of the places where they can turn. So, it's a mistake. It's a huge mistake for companies to be leaving the channel. We're at an incredible place in history where we're going to go through the biggest boom that we ever have. So, our job at corporate is to make sure that we're creating structures to support that growth.
And with that being the biggest boom and what we have our hands on with your technology, obviously being the biggest boom, it sounds like that's the perfect marriage as well with LifeWave's
Absolutely.
technology and the channel of multi-level marketing and what's coming in the future for wellness.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, the type of things, the type of, I'll talk about this a little bit at conference, but the type of technology that we're looking at is, we've had it in development for a year, has been to use AI to have 24/7 customer service. And we have over 600 employees at corporate. And my mantra to them is none of them will ever lose their job to a computer. They're not going to lose their job to AI. I refuse to do that. So we'll take people in customer service and we'll put them into outbound. So AI can handle the inbound calls, and customer service, the real human beings, are going to be calling out to our brand partners and customers and facilitating, helping them with whatever they need help with. On order fulfillment, we're going to be having robotics. So robots will be in our warehouses in the evening, moving boxes around, stocking shelves, and human beings will be there during the day fulfilling orders. So I do think there's a way to integrate new technology to improve services without compromising human beings. And it would be it would be a mistake um, to have technology supplant human beings and take away their purpose. Star Trek, by the way, had a great episode on that in the 1960s. So I learned my lesson from Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock.
I love it. Well, David, thank you so much for taking your time this evening to share so much with our field, with the words of wisdom, the knowledge, the insights, the up and comings, everything that you shared is just so impactful. We all appreciate you so immensely. Just so grateful for your time.
Oh, believe me, it's my pleasure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you tonight and talk to our community. And there's some, there's uh, strange times we're living in with everything going on in the world, but there is also tremendous hope. Um, I last week I addressed the Danish government. Was invited by the Danish government to be a keynote speaker at a conference that was going on in Copenhagen. And what I urged, there were 10,000 people that were in attendance at this conference. And what I urged them to really be thinking about was focusing on peace and how can we be leveraging technology. There's a lot of tension in Europe because of the war with Ukraine. And but in the midst of all of this, we should be thinking about how do we end this war? How do we end these conflicts? There are good, innocent people that are suffering. How can we get to a state of peace? I think it's if we're putting a little bit more light into the world and recognizing more similarities than our differences, that's something that is absolutely achievable, and we can get there.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. I look forward to
Thank
seeing
you,
you,
Dr.
and
Stacy.
I know our brand partners look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in Anaheim. So
Looking forward to it.
thank you, thank you, thank you, as always.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Thanks,
Thank,
everybody.
thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you for watching. And to learn more about this amazing technology, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.